Hello. I can't figure out how the file's too big to send by email. Yeah, I think so. I guess you have to let me in. I just hear this loud music. Can you hear me?
Yes, very much.
Okay, I'm very sorry I couldn't share the screen.
No worries.
This platform is somewhat new for me,
No worries. No
and
worries.
it's just not working. So, how how long do I have
You have 1 hour.
from now?
Yes. No, you have 45 minutes. You have actually till what time? 3 p.m. You have till 3 p.m.
Okay, so I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. I'm kind of
No worries.
used to
If you want,
other
you can send it to me. I'll
platforms.
show it for you.
Should I begin now?
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Okay. So, what I'd like to talk about today is the subject of my new book, which is titled Extreme Human Antiquity. It's a follow up book to Forbidden Archaeology. After people read that book, they began asking me, have there been any cases that have come to my attention since that first book was published? And yes, many cases of archaeological evidence for extreme human antiquity have come to my attention, and I uh, put them out in a book of that title, Extreme Human Antiquity. Today, most scientists in the mainstream academic world believe that humans like us first came into existence about 300,000 years ago. But if we look at the accounts of human origins and antiquity found in the Vedic histories, which are called the Puranas, we see accounts of human beings like us existing on this planet for periods of time going back many millions of years.
Thing in the box.
So, of course, somebody may ask, well, what difference does it make if human beings have existed for a few 100,000 years or many millions of years? There is a difference because what it means, if this evidence is taken seriously, is that we need new explanations for human origins. Today, most scientists believe that we are machines made of molecules, purely material beings. But in the Vedic cosmology, we learned that's not really the case. We have a material body that is made of molecules of the chemical elements. But beyond that, there is a subtle mental body with very unusual powers. And beyond that, there is a conscious self that exists separately from the body. It can exist separately from it, separate from matter, separate from the brain. So that is the significance of this evidence, that it means we need new explanations for human origins, and these new explanations are going to involve consciousness as something separate from matter, which is again consistent with the Vedic accounts. So uh, there are various categories of such evidence that I deal with. There are discoveries of human bones, human artifacts, and human footprints that go much further back in time than the current theories allow. I'll give some examples of these different categories of evidence. Let's look at human skeletal remains. Now, sometimes when I talk about these things, I'll use cases that may appear to be very insignificant, but we have to keep in mind that the human fossil record is very sparse. So in 2016, there was a group of archaeologists conducting excavations at Olduvai Gorge in the country of Tanzania in East Africa. Olduvai Gorge is a very famous site. Many discoveries that are mentioned in the textbooks today have been made there. In 2016, uh, archaeologists discovered a finger bone there. And it's a minor discovery in one sense, but it teaches an important lesson. What they discovered was the finger bone. Actually, it's this one here, the proximal phalanx of the little finger of the right hand. Uh, they found it in layers of sediment 1,800,000 years old. They carefully studied this finger bone. They conducted many measurements of it, and they compared the measurements with those of the same finger bone in, in many species of apes, monkeys, gorillas, orangutans, so on. They also compared it with the same finger bone from fossil hominids like Australopithecus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and they also compared it with a sample of the same finger bone from modern human populations. And they said in their report, which was published in Nature Communications, a very prominent scientific journal, they reported this finger bone fits within the modern human group. It's different from that of any ape or monkey. It's different from that of any fossil hominid like Australopithecus or Homo erectus, different than any of those. It fits squarely with the modern human population. But they said, although this finger bone fits most closely with modern Homo sapiens, we can't call it Homo sapiens. We can't call it human because of the age of the geological formation in which it was found, 1,800,000 years. So this often happens in archaeology. Uh, Scientists will be confronted with evidence that shows that anatomically modern humans were existing long before 300,000 years ago. In this case, 1,800,000 years ago. So what they do is instead of accepting it as possible evidence for a human presence 1,800,000 years ago, they try somehow or other to make it fit into their paradigm. And the paradigm is a term that was popularized by Thomas Kuhn, this very famous historian and philosopher of science, in his book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. He pointed out that scientists tend to find what they're looking for. They tend to see what they're trained to see, even if it's actually the reality is quite different. A famous psychological experiment was once done where psychologists took some cards from a standard deck of cards and altered them. For example, if they had a six of spades, which is normally black color, they turned it red. So you have a red six of spades. Or you have a four of hearts, which is normally red color, turn it black. Then what they did is they put together the whole deck of cards with some of these altered cards in it. And then they would show them to people one after another. And the subjects of the experiment would have to identify each card: King of Hearts, Ace of Spades. Then they would come to the altered card, say the six of spades that should be black and it's red, and they go six of hearts. In other words, they don't see what's actually there. They see what they expect to see. So that often happens in science, and it happened, I believe, in this case, from this discovery that was made just a few years ago at Olduvai Gorge in Africa. There was something similar to that happened in 1979 when Mary Leakey discovered footprints at a place called Laetoli in the same country, the same part of Africa, East Africa. In her original report, she said these footprints are identical to modern human footprints. And what was unusual is the footprints were found in layers of volcanic ash, 3,700,000 years old. So a Vedic archaeologist wouldn't be surprised to find such things because, according to the Vedic histories, the Puranas, humans like us have existed on this planet for millions and millions of years in the course of Vedic cyclical time. So it's wouldn't be surprising to a Vedic archaeologist, but for a modern archaeologist who's part of today's scientific establishment, it's out of the question. So, how did Mary Leakey explain those footprints that she said were just like those of a modern human being? Well, she said there must have existed 3 or 4 million years ago some type of ape man, some type of hominin, some variety of Australopithecus who had feet exactly like modern human feet. It's an interesting proposal, but there's no factual evidence to back it up. Actually, scientists have discovered the foot bones of Australopithecus, and their foot structure is not like that of a modern human being. For example, Australopithecus has a big toe, a first toe that moves out to the side of the foot like a human thumb, and the toes, the other toes on the foot, are very long, kind of like human fingers. So a foot like that will not make a print exactly like that of an anatomically modern human being. Actually, the only creature known to science that can make a footprint exactly like that of a modern human being is modern human being. So this evidence kind of demonstrates that there was a human presence almost 4 million years ago. And this is consistent with the accounts of human history found in the Puranas, the historical writings of ancient India. So, another category of evidence is human artifacts and evidence of human activity in connection with bone. Say if archaeologists find a bone and it has cut marks on it that would be like those that would be made if someone was taking a sharp stone and, say, trying to scrape the flesh off of the bone. Of course, I'm a vegetarian, so I don't like to talk about such things, but it's one category of archaeological evidence. So, uh, some very interesting discoveries have been made of cut bone that date back very far in time. Usually, archaeologists would attribute such activity to a being like ourselves. So there have been discoveries showing that such evidence goes back many millions of years. And there was one case from the 19th century, where a British scientist found dinosaur bones with such cut marks on them that dated back to the Jurassic period, which is over 100, 200 million years ago. So uh, those are some of the cases that are reported in my latest book, Extreme Human Antiquity. So the there are further cases uh, that demonstrate evidence like this. Sometimes people ask, what is the single most important case, that you've uncovered in your work? And to me, it's not that there are one or two especially significant cases that is important. For me, what's important is the huge quantity of evidence like this. We're not talking about just a few cases, one or two or three cases like this. We're talking about hundreds of them, which kind of led me to ask, if this evidence really is there in the original scientific reports, why isn't it in today's textbooks? Why don't people hear more about these discoveries? And I think it's because of a process of knowledge filtration that operates in the world of science. If you have a dominant consensus, evidence that conforms to the consensus will pass through that filter very easily, which means you'll hear about this evidence, you'll see it in textbooks, you'll hear scientists talking about it in different videos that they make and circulate. You'll hear them speaking about it at scientific conferences. But if you have evidence, reports of evidence that radically contradicts a dominant consensus, then you won't find that uh, being talked about. The objects may be in a museum, but they're not displayed to the public. Or if they are displayed to the public, they're made somehow or other to fit the dominant paradigm. I gave an example of that a little while ago. So um, this process of knowledge filtration means we're not getting the complete set of facts that we need to make judgments about the origins and antiquity of the human species. If we consider the full range of evidence that is actually there, it's very consistent with the Vedic view of things, which is a picture of coexistence of anatomically modern humans with beings resembling the modern scientific view of ape men like Australopithecus and Homo habilis and Homo erectus. And there's coexistence with not only humans like us, intermediate types of beings, but also ancient apes and monkeys. So, for example, in the Ramayana, the history of the activities of Lord Ram, we learned that he attacked the island of Lanka, the island kingdom of Lanka, uh, where Ravan had his forces. Ron used soldiers, monkey soldiers. They were called Vanaras, and they had ape-like bodies, but human-like intelligence and a simple level of human culture. So uh, it's not that ape men is an idea that was invented by European scientists, followers of Charles Darwin in the 19th century. Long before that, the Vedic literature, the Vedic histories were speaking about such things. But it's not that the apes and monkeys evolved into these intermediate beings, and then the intermediate beings evolved into humans. No, they weren't coming one from the other. They were simply coexisting with each other as far back in time as we could trace the archaeological record. So uh, I don't know if we want to pause now and see if there are any questions that anyone has. Okay, since I don't hear any questions, I'll continue on. So I talked about cut bones, human artifacts, human skeletal remains, and human footprints. So those are the different categories of evidence that archaeologists deal with. Sometimes people ask me, is there any evidence for higher levels of culture and civilization? And one thing that has to be considered is I'm dealing with evidence that has been reported by professional archaeologists, geologists, and other scientists digging into the earth. Uh, and I'm talking about things that have been reported in the professional scientific literature. Uh, but if we look a little beyond that, uh, and I think it's good to do this because if such evidence really is there in the layers of the earth, then we should expect that not only professional scientists, but ordinary people, miners, for example, might be encountering this evidence. And the artifacts that they collect may not make their way into the scientific museums, but may wind up in private collections. Maybe an object from a mine, a coal mine, for example, would be placed on a mantle in the home somewhere by the miner, and it wouldn't make its way into the uh, science museum or anything like that. But it's just as real evidence as anything that might be discovered by a professional scientist. So there are cases like that. One interesting one came from the state of West Virginia, where in the 1940s, a boy, child, a member of a family, was putting coal into a coal burning furnace that heated the family house. And there was a particularly big piece of coal, and he broke it open. And inside, he found a metal bell. And I've seen photographs of this bell. It has uh, a handle, it's a bell with a handle on, and on the top of it, there's a winged figure that I recognize because such bells are used even today in temples in India. They have the figure, the winged figure on top is Garuda, the bird wing carrier of Lord Vishnu. So it was interesting to find a bell like that, exactly like that, embedded in coal over 300 million years old in West Virginia. So you do have cases like that. And of course, if you go to India itself, there are uh, thousands of temples in India and various sacred places that commemorate events that took place millions of years ago, according to the Vedic accounts. So um, you have evidence like that as well, but that isn't considered to be scientific evidence. That there are temples dedicated to personalities who existed in Satya Yuga or Treta Yuga or Dwapara Yuga, going back millions of years. But that's a different category of evidence. Um, so I present these types of evidence at major international conferences of archaeology. And for me, as a practicing Vaishnava, a statement from the Puranas or the Mahabharata or the Ramayana are evidence. If I'm sitting in discussion with people who also accept those statements as evidence, then we can discuss it and come to a conclusion. But if I go to a science conference, an archaeology conference, they're not going to accept a statement from a Vedic text as evidence. They want to see some physical evidence, some footprints or artifacts or bones. Uh, so, what I can do is I can say, if I can make a hypothesis, if what the Vedic histories say is true, then we should expect to find scientific reports of human bones, human artifacts, and human footprints going back many millions of years. And to test that hypothesis, I say, look at the entire history of archaeology. Look at the primary scientific literature, the original reports by archaeologists. If you do that, if you look beyond the textbooks and do that, then the prediction turns out to be true. There are many such reports that are consistent with what the ancient Sanskrit writings of India say about the history of humans on this planet. So I think I've reached the time that we're scheduled to end this part of the program.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing those wonderful insights with us. And you can go ahead and take a break now. Then we'll be starting the next panel with you, and I'll give you about 10 minutes. So you can go ahead and take a little break, and then we'll come back at 10 minutes or so
Okay.
to start the next panel.
All
But thank you
right.
very much.
Yes. Right. See? Yes. It's finished.
Yeah.
Treasure.
Treasure quest. It's a quest.
Yes.
Welcome back. I'm now going to show you our exciting Sattology treasure quest, which is a fun, relaxing, educational, build and explore match 3 mobile game. So here's the concept. The game is based upon Adi's 3 books, the original Atlas, Transcending the Mind, and Pandava's The Famous Five. And what is our game? So our game is basically a play match 3 game, and you travel the fabulous world map, which comes out directly out of Adi's books, and it's filled with attractive locations and treasures from Ushmal to jungle, Ramayana cave, exploring each place to earn big bonuses. Then you can proceed to spend stars that you've earned to further your exploration. Once you fully explore the location, you can proceed to the next location and progress through your adventure. Here are our suggested game characters. Again, everything here is in pre-development phase. So we are looking for investors or publishers or whoever is willing to come help us out with this project. Exploration is the main basis of our meta gameplay. Once you've earned your first stars, it's time to start the adventure. You will spend stars to uncover the secrets of ancient sites, clear out the rubble, and unblock ancient passages. You'll find ancient statues and put them back in place to solve the centuries-old puzzle, or simply engage with other characters within the game to learn secrets. Each completed task will be followed by a snippet of narrative through talking heads, as you see right here on the bottom. And then once all tasks in that particular location are accomplished, a special treasure box will be revealed, granting rewards and access to the next captivating location on the map. While you're playing, you can relax with an Adi Says segment. In this particular Adi Says segment, you will actually meditate. So this will help you for 1 full minute. You will relax, and then you'll be able to continue on to your next segment. The game will also include a lot of great pictures from the locations that Adi himself has visited. So for example, here's a photo. Once you complete it, you'll receive a photo for your collection. And on the back of each photo, you'll learn some fun and educational facts about that particular location. And we also have a Grandmaster Gordon Says, which will help provide guidance on your journey through many exciting new adventures. So he will teach you about focus and other things that are related to martial arts. And here is a little snippet from one of the games. Again, it's in pre-development. And you will learn about the caves. You'll go visiting with your friends, and you will also eat local food. So you will learn about what foods are actually provided within each area. And what's a game without shopping? You'll be able to shop for clothes, for house parts, for anything that you like. So this makes it fun. In order to do any of these, will be playing your match 3 game in order to earn stars. You will also be continuing to an undisclosed island where you will build your dream home, and you'll be able to choose from furniture to towels to pillows. It's a lot of fun. Traveling. You will go on a treasure hunt. You will embark on a treasure hunting adventure throughout the world. Each map location you completely renovate will bring you a treasure chest full of match 3 boosters, which will help you within your next adventure. You have to explore each location to progress, and you do so by playing match 3 to earn stars and complete all exploration missions to complete a location. You'll clear the jungle, you'll put statues back in their place, or find a mysterious carved message before moving on to the next part of the adventure. You will explore the growing world. The adventure never ends. In live ops, we aim to bring new maps, new missions, and challenges. So the game will never stop. The more Adi travels, the more locations you will have with your game. So the game will soon be in development. You can contact me, as you can see, for more information. There is also a form which I will put in the chat. So if you're interested, please fill out the form and send it over to us. Thank you, and we're very excited to share this with you.
Okay, begin with the next panel. And the panel is already here. Desh Kapoor is moderating the panel. And we are all here.
Thank you very much.
Over to you.
Thank you so much. So today's session now is about the secrets of cosmology. And, like when we look at how the human nature and the human civilization has evolved over time, we realize that for the folks who were there in the ancient world, for them, this entire universe, this entire existence was more of a extension of their own living experience. So they did not create an artificial divide between like what we now call science and spirituality. For them, science was a way to understand, quote unquote, the creator or the secret of the entire consciousness itself. So that is how the interest in geometry and astronomy and math and secrets of our own DNA and the life matter itself started off. So the entire combination of that is what I believe is the understanding of cosmology, as opposed to that artificial divide of just understanding how cosmos as a physical entity works. Now, as we move on with all the way, like with the relativity and all those new areas of science that came on after that, the quantum physics, the consciousness, that we see a new direction of science itself, which is like very much articulated or at least informed by the spiritual realm that we used to call earlier. Because like with the coming of quantum, what had really happened was that for the first time, the scientists were faced with this strange like conundrum. how does the finite actually come from the infinite? This was the question that all the spiritual seekers used to ask, and they had answered in different ways. So whether it was the many dimension or many world or the Copenhagen, understanding the quantum, they had answered in different ways, and that's where the scientists were also coming to. So now as we look back from the vantage point of where we are in terms of science, and we look at the entire cosmology, we see the things that they have done, say in the pyramid of the Chichen Itza, or Egypt, or the temples in India, which are extremely complex, extremely intricate. Like we see a level of knowledge that current civilization itself has not been able to achieve. So there was something that was going on at that time, and like we have a fantastic panel like that we have here, and I would like Aditya ji, like you can start off, and like then we can take this conversation forward.
Thank you, Deshi. And this is the one of the best panels I have. You moderating this panel with Michael Cremo. Michael Cremo has done a wonderful work on forbidden archaeology. But nowadays it's no more forbidden now based on his work. Everybody knows what's the what is the cosmology. So the our ancient Puranic cosmology is very different than what they teach here. Number one, Polaris is not in our cosmology. Polaris is known as Dhruv, and it is important to call it as Dhruv because the entire all the planetary systems revolve around Dhruv. Uh, it's called Dhruv Tara in the Sanskrit words, and it has been accurate in many ways because what you see here is that you see all the stars moving around Dhruv, even visually speaking, you see that, and all the planets, all the stars, all the nakshatra, all these go around Dhruv. So the entire models which are being told to us have not stood the test of logical reasoning. Why we see sun movement, why we see moon movement, and we see the other stars movement, but the only movement we don't see is the Dhruv Tara movement, the Dhruv movement. Now Dhruv is Polaris for most of the people who don't know that, and the hierarchy of the planets, which is not being told, like we speak about multiverse. Multiverse is an axiomatic truth. It has existed from many. The knowledge of that has been existing for many years. I mean centuries before the European scholars found out about anything. So we have seen, we know that there are multiple planetary systems above the Earth where people live, and there are multiple planetary systems or loka below the Earth where people live. So the whole idea of Earth uh, itself is not accepted, and that's why we make mistakes. Like recently, NASA actually said that they have lost all records of moon landing. Nothing remaining, nothing is there in NASA. All the records are lost, all the videos are lost, all the footage is lost, and not only just one moon landing it is lost; it's for all moon landings it's lost. So therefore, they cannot go back now. So when people question them, they say they cannot go back. And when people ask them that why you can't go back, and the simple reason is they don't have the knowledge left to go back. And recently, Elon Musk also said the same thing. He said that the amount of fuel needed to reach the moon will be 9 times the fuel carried by the largest SpaceX aircraft. 9 times. And just imagine the older airships with all the fuel of that time. They had only one, and how could it reach? So there are a lot of secrets of cosmology we need to talk about. Beginning with the whole definition of Swarga and the three planetary systems, the position of the stars, how the stars are calculated, In fact, the most accurate calculation of the stars come from the Jyotish Shastra, which is Vedanga, which is uh, which is part of the Vedic system. And so from there, the most of the knowledge comes, and that has never been proved wrong. So the ancient people were able to calculate the movement of the moon, the phases of the moon, with far more accuracy than today also, not using any major principles. So I think there's a lot of things, secrets in the cosmos, which we have not discussed yet fully. I'll give it over to you.
Yeah, thanks. And now I come to the star of this panel, Michael Kramer. Thanks, Aditya ji, for like such a strong introduction of the this topic. And so there are some thinkers who do not simply write books; they actually open the door to a whole new knowledge. And Michael Cremo is actually one of them. His work that he has written, Forbidden Archaeology, it actually unsettled a lot of people, unsettled the safe certainties that were out there in the academia. And I think that's what is so great about him, because his integrity of his mission is so amazing that he has done work not just for controversy or anything like that. It is the objective, the integrity of his work that is so fascinating. So Michael, I leave the panel to you now, and the mic to you. So please share your thoughts. So thank you.
Okay. Well, of course, you mentioned my work in forbidden archaeology, but I'm also interested in cosmology. And for the past 10 years or so, I've been involved with a project in India called the Temple of the Vedic Planetarium, which the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is constructing in Mayapur, West Bengal, which is a sacred place for the tradition that I follow, the Gaudiya Vaishnava tradition. And it was something that was very much desired by my guru, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. He wanted an exhibition of the Vedic cosmology because he thought it was very important for people to understand. Today, we most most people have lost their connection with the cosmos, uh, and that is largely because of light pollution. You know, we live in big cities with lights going on 24 hours a day. So, practically speaking, the only celestial bodies that people have any familiarity at all with are the sun and the moon. Uh, Basically, in most places where people live, the rest of the celestial bodies are invisible because of so much light coming from our modern technological civilization. But if we go back in time, or even today, if we go, especially on dark moon days, out into the desert or mountains, we can actually experience the wonder of so many stars and planets, and these days, other objects that are visible in the sky. And the civilization of ancient India was based on that connection with the cosmos beyond this world of our habitation. So I think cosmology includes, of course, everything within the cosmos, and that includes us. So there's a connection between our lives and the larger cosmos that we're part of. So the important questions that a cosmology is meant to help us answer are the questions: who am I? Where am I? And where should I be going? So today, many scientists would say that we're accidental beings in an accidental universe. And I don't accept that. Of course, in Bhagavad Gita, there are statements that recognize that there are people who hold that philosophy. Asatyam pratishtam te jagatahur anishvaram. There are people who think everything is just happening by chance. There is no controller of this universe. There is no source for it. It just happened. It The only purpose is whatever we happen to make of it. So there are those who think like that. This was understood thousands of years ago, but there are others who understand that we're not purely material beings existing in a purely material cosmos. We are essentially, as the Vedic mantras tell us, Aham Brahmasmi, I am spirit soul. I am a conscious, individual, personal being. And not just me, but everyone, all of us, we have some participation in this cosmos. So what I am, as I said, is I am a spiritual being in a material body, in a material world. So that's where I am. What I am is I'm a being of pure consciousness who finds himself now in a bodily vehicle made of matter in a world that has a material aspect to it. Of course, there's the principle, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, that everything is ultimately spirit. There's one energy like that can be deployed in different ways. It's not false, but it's temporary. There can be some temporary display. So, who am I? I'm a spirit soul in the material. Where am I in the material world? Where am I meant to be? There's a world of spirit. Actually, everything that we see in the cosmos is a reflection of an existing and ever existing spiritual reality. So, if we consider what a reflection is, say, consider you have a fruit tree standing on the bank of, say, a pond, and say it's a mango tree, and the mango tree is reflected in the waters of the pond. If you try to enjoy the fruit, pick the fruit from the reflection of the mango tree, you don't get any real fruit or satisfaction. You may imagine it, you may think I'm going to enjoy something, but you don't get the real fruit. But the reflection is important and that it points to the existence of a real tree. Uh, and if you approach the real tree, you'll get the fruit and the happiness and satisfaction you desire. So that's where we should be going, not chasing after illusory happiness and satisfaction in a more or less virtual reality system, because I think that's what the material cosmos is. We should be striving to go for the Sattology we have here. So the Sat means the actual existing thing. So we should go for the existing thing, the eternally existing reality, and not the reflection of it in the world of matter. So this cosmos actually exists for two purposes, I believe. It's not an accident. And that purpose is to allow those who want to try to dominate, control, and exploit matter and the beings and material bodies who are here, they can do that. And there's ample opportunity to do it in many different ways. These material bodily vehicles that we have exist in many forms. Actually, according to the Vedic texts, there are 8,400,000 different kinds of bodily vehicles that souls can exist in on this level of reality. Uh, Now, the real home of the soul is the spiritual world. But if it wants to enjoy separately from that, if it has some selfishness, some desire to control, dominate, and exploit others and matter, it needs a different place to exist. So that is what this cosmos is. It's an alternative reality for us. And we can either remain entangled here or we can take advantage of the opportunities that have always been here to develop our consciousness, to educate ourselves, to qualify ourselves to exist on that higher level of reality of which this world is a reflection. So those are some initial thoughts on what I could call Vedic cosmology.
Thank you so much, Michael, and I think it was the entire understanding of that example that you gave of taking the fruit from the reflection was so amazing to understand how this thing works, because uh, like it's very common to call this existence as Maya, and the way I've understood it is just from my standpoint is that like one of the things that the wave collapse experiment really taught us was that when somebody is observing like what would be a wave as an electron being a wave, on observation collapses to one finite electron, and that's how that experiment showed, right? So basically what we are seeing as physical reality is actually a collapse of an infinite into one observable finite. So So when we say Maya, it does not mean that this one physical reality does not exist. What it probably means is that because we are taking this one physical reality to be the only reality, we are discarding the infinite minus one realities as well. So, in that sense, we are actually looking at just one out of infinite realities or components of reality that makes our understanding extremely puny. One, and second, you know, not really like a correct understanding of this entire existence or non-existence put together. So, so your the way you have explained it, in terms of how it has been understood by the Indian seers and sages in the Vedic texts and things like that was extremely amazing. So, so Aditi, like you have written a lot about transcending the mind. You've written that book, about Yoga Sutra, and what better exponent of yoga, which is the union with the entire existence and non-existence, like that is there. How would you take Michael's discussion forward in terms of how Patanjali he actually like looked at the yoga and Yoga Sutra and the cosmology itself?
Yeah, a good question, Desh Kapoorji. So Patanjali focuses on using yoga to travel and to travel across different spheres of existence. That's what Patanjali speaks about. Uh, but the in uh, Ekalyapad, in the last one, in the last fourth part of the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, he talks about interplanetary travel using yoga, and he talks about it and how you can transcend it. And in Mahabharata, there are so many instances, or in other ancient Indian texts, where people are traveling freely between different loka. In fact, Arjun goes to fight in Rasatal using his own body on Indra's chariot, and that is documented reference in Mahabharata. It's in my book Pandavas, the Famous Five also. Now, in one of the books I wrote was the original atlas. Now, this is based on all the Purana, Ramayana, Mahabharata, including Bhagavad Purana references. In fact, all Purana references and Bhagavad Purana references match. Uh, and the references of Mahabharata and Ramayana are very important because they are histories, the itihas on this planet, not in other planets. Like, for example, there is a complete difference in which the sun and moon are described. Like, for example, the Surya Chandram Suryavat Kirane Rav Bhasate Tavad Bhurlok Akhyata Purane Dvijapungava. Like, this is the reference which is given in Purana, which shows that as wherever the rays of sun and moon fall, that area is called Bhuloka. Okay, very reference, like in all the Purana, that's a reference. Now, the geographical extent of Bhuloka and Bhuvarloka, which is of similar dimensions because of the rays of sun and moon. And the until Dhruva star or pole star is Swargaloka. So any place below the Dhruv, that's why we spoke about the Polaris in the first place. See, Michael spoke about the spiritual side of it, how the philosophical, where we can use that information to attain higher planets. But I'm talking about the very ground, on the ground understanding here. Like, what is the purpose of astrology? What is the purpose of Jyotish Shastra? The purpose is to find the alignment of stars properly so that people can attain higher destination. That's what the planet purpose is. That's the whole purpose of mathematics also, other than calculating subtraction and all these things for regular trade purposes. So the Swargaloka, the 100,000 yojana or 800,000 miles above the earth is the path of the sun. 800,000 miles above the earth is the path of the sun. Now, now this yojana calculation can vary also. Now, so this information from the Veda has never been proved incorrect. I mean, this is coming from Linga Puran and other Mahabharata also. Now, above the sun is the moon, and by a distance of 100,000 yojana is the nakshatra mandal. Now, this information has been shared by consistently across all yoga practitioners in the world. Consistent information. Then you have Buddha, then you have Shukra, and then you have Mangal, and above Mangal is Brihaspati, and above Brihaspati is Shani, and this is the Graha, and above that is Saptarishi Mandal. And now different stars are also there. Like for example, the dimension of the sun is 9,000 yojana, and the dimension of the earth is almost like 50 crore yojana, which is a very big number, very very big number. Moon is the double the size of the chariot of the sun, and the Rahu moves between the sun and moon. That's why you see Chandragrahan or Surya Grahan. And then you have Shukra is 1/16th of the moon or Chandra. Brihaspati is 1/4 of the Shukra. And Mangal and Shani are 1/4 of Brihaspati. And Buddha is the 1/4 of Mangal. Now, for people who do not know these names, they can translate that, how the different, most of this, what the stars mean actually. So, so Buddha is Mercury and Shukra is Venus, and Brihaspati is Jupiter, Shani is the Saturn, and above that is Saptarishi, which is the Arsa Major, which is Saptarishi in our language, and that's how you see the swastika sign. So when the Saptarishi is in different positions around Dhruv, it becomes swastika. So exactly same way, and it's exactly 4 directions given by Saptarishi and becomes swastika. Now this is just the position of the stars. Now the thing is, all astrology works on this definition. All Jyotish Shastra works on this definition. But the modern cosmology, what they say, talk about, they don't show this version actually. So if you see the stars, nakshatra, most of the nakshatra, which is can be having people or cannot be having people, they are the same size as Buddha, and the Buddha uh, is 1/4 of Mangal. Very small planet, very very small planet. So some Tara and Nakshatra are 100, 200 or 300 yojana. Some of them are yojana or some of them are half a yojana. So there is nothing, no star smaller than half a yojana. But what they say is the stars are bigger than the sun. All that is not accepted by truth as truth. Like in our ancient, because these are the people who saw the world as well. And so they are not accepting that version. Like for example, Samvatsara is 1 solar year. Parivatsara is 1 Rashtriya zodiac for a year. Now, all this information is there, has been researched because these people who are writing this are also scientists from the previous era. So, according to me, the modern cosmology that we know here, Desh Kapoorji, is not complete or may not be accurate also. Otherwise, so much of stolen data all the time.
Thank you so much, Aditya. And so I'll go back to Michael, and so Michael, like in your books and your works, like you have shared so much about the consciousness being the substratum of this entire existence, which is the physical existence. So, which are the areas that you think uh, where science still has to evolve to to get a better understanding of cosmology as it is, like in the real sense. So how would you how would you articulate that those gaps that the current science has?
Yes, I think science has to be open about what its methodology is, because science is a game, you could say, that's played by certain rules. And one of the rules is you can't introduce any non-material substance like consciousness as something separately existing. Another rule is you can't bring in any type of intelligence that is responsible for any of the order or complexity that we observe. So, in one sense, that has been very productive for science in the sense that they have learned a lot about the action of matter and how to control it. And that means they've been able to develop technologies that are highly valued by governments, corporations, and the people in general. We also buy into it. So uh, it's been very productive in that sense, but it's been at the expense of having a complete picture of reality. And because of that, there remain huge problems in modern human society. We're destroying our environment. There are intense levels of conflict on all levels of human society. And there is a sense of dissatisfaction among the people in general, and even among the scientific circles themselves. So I think there are some fundamental issues that have to be dealt with. Now, I will comment on something that you said about quantum mechanics. I think quantum mechanics shows that matter itself is very strange. It's not as many people conceive it to be. I consider it to be upwardly compatible with consciousness because you have, the phenomenon of the collapse of the wave function into one observed reality that we experience out of all the possible states that could be allowed by the equations that govern quantum mechanics. So some will see that as consciousness having a role in the actions of matter. And then you have things like quantum entanglement, where information apparently is being transmitted in a manner that doesn't follow the normal rules of information being transmitted from one place to another. So I think even our understanding of matter needs to be looked at very carefully because it tends to point to consciousness as being somehow fundamental. And as far as modern science is concerned, in terms of its ideas of the size of the universe, the age of the universe, it's constantly changing. If we look at estimates of the size of the universe over time, very greatly. If we look at estimates of the age of the universe over the decades, they're constantly changing. So, and even what we're seeing now is not I mean, we often see representations of the whole universe, but from our point of view, we're not, I mean, even according to the scientific way of looking at things, we're perceiving light that has traveled for billions of years. We're not actually seeing the universe as it exists at this present moment. There isn't any photographic device that can take a picture of the whole cosmos. So, what it really is, how big it really is, how old it really is, what's actually in it, we don't have any direct access to that. So, I think the insights in the Vedic texts can help us sort through these issues. Uh, they contain insights that are either in terms of ordinary astronomy, calculating the movements of the celestial bodies. They can be very valuable in that respect. And then also in the larger issues that theoretical cosmologists and theoretical physicists deal with. I think there are important insights there that can help resolve outstanding issues in these fields. In terms of the knowledge of people involved in the Vedic culture about astronomy, it's kind of interesting to me to see how advanced astronomical knowledge in terms of observable astronomy, observational astronomy, are built into, for example, temple structures. I once visited Angkor Wat, where you have a huge Vedic temple surrounded by walls, and it has towers in it. And if you stand at some distance from the main wall, you'll see that at the solstices, the sun rises over one end of the wall for the summer solstice and another end of the wall for the winter solstice. And then for the equinoxes, the fall and spring equinoxes, the sun rises over the center of this wall. And to me, it's just amazing that the architects who made these things were able to design them in such a way that they incorporated that knowledge. And if you look at some of these sculptures on the temple walls in the interior spaces of this complex, you'll see that advanced astronomical information is built into those very, very immense bas relief carvings. For example, there's one that shows the churning of the milk ocean by the suras and the asuras, the pious and the impious personalities in the cosmos. And if you add up the number of personalities involved on either side, it adds up to the passage of a year calculated according to the solar movements. So I think you had mentioned the pyramid at Chichen Itza in the Mayan world too, and there also you see advanced astronomical knowledge being built into the structure of that.
Lot
So
of similarities between the description of Ramayana and the pyramids at Uxmal and Chichen Itza. Lot of similarities.
yeah, so I wanted to say that your emphasis on the practical, down to earth aspects of uh, this observational astronomy, which is found mainly, as you mentioned, in the Jyotish Shastras, is uh, quite advanced, really. And then in the Puranas, you get things that are more in the realm of interest of maybe theoretical cosmologists. You find accounts of the Mahavishnu lying in the causal ocean and breathing. He's in a state of deep sleep and he's dreaming. And when he breathes out, numberless universes come out. When he breathes in, they come in again. And this is something of interest, I think, to some of the modern cosmological theories, which also propose many universes expanding and contracting over the course of time. And you also find descriptions of variations in time that in some ways mirror the relativity of time proposed by Einstein. So there's a lot there.
Thanks, Michael. So I think like what we have seen is how like the quantum and the consciousness and the reality of the cosmology that the ancients had come upon has really shaped the cosmology that the human civilization has come up with. And I think the way we are proceeding ahead now with the quantum computers being built on the principles of superposition, entanglement, and interference, and how they can actually decrypt or break the asymmetric encryption algorithms like RSA or elliptical curve cryptography. And the only way forward is to actually go ahead with the QKD, which is a quantum key distribution, to actually create an encryption that is far beyond this, and it actually is based on the entanglement of the particles, which is very central to the quantum physics. So the coming wars that we'll face are that's what the modern like mind has done. It has used something that could have been so beneficial spiritually for the wars going forward. And so Aditi, I'll bring you in on this, and then we can close with the final remarks on how do you see, because we have not fully understood the entire gamut of consciousness, which includes the quantum physics as well, but we are discovering something new. So there is an element of mysteriousness that is out there for the quantum. And if we are going to use this in wars, the like at least the offshoots of that quantum understanding, then how do you see the human experience being shaped further on, especially when it comes to the wars?
See, the thing is, weaponization of this kind of knowledge is useless. Okay, because it's not going to help you. Uh, Consciousness and the quantums are two different things, actually. According to me, the way the quantum advancement which is going on for better, smaller products, faster information flow, that's a totally different realm altogether. Recently someone talked about the God particle, and the God particle is Paramatma and Atma. So our process of Atma, Paramatma, and the yoga to connect Atma with Paramatma is way different than what people are talking to do with quantum. Quantum, what they're doing is, like we know the time calculation. When two anu meet, it becomes Parmanu, and when the three Parmanu meet, it becomes Trisarenu. And then that's how you use for time calculation. So the Vedic time calculation process is itself very, very subatomic, with previous subatomic. And so they knew how to use the particle movement for creating very subtle energy calls through mantra. And that came through yogic experience and for preservation, self-preservation. Now, what we are looking at right now is that we have left out the other side of it. We have fulfillment of the soul, because most of the diseases in the world are going to be mental. Quantum is not going to solve it. Quantum can provide material health, it cannot solve it. So that's where I look at. I can go on and on, but I'll give the forum back to you. Please.
Thank you so much. So Michael, any final remarks before we close? Because it's been a very invigorating kind of a discussion.
Yes. I wanted to say some things about parallels between the Sankhya philosophy and modern cosmology. Uh, Sankhya posits that the first element is space, akash, and along with it comes sound and the sense of hearing. So it's very interesting that in the Vedic cosmology, there's something that accounts for perception and consciousness, which is something completely absent from, not completely, because many scientists today are trying to solve the problem of consciousness by saying at some level, matter has the property of consciousness, maybe on the subatomic level. Uh, so there are varieties of what called panpsychism and cosmopsychism that are gradually spreading in science. But one of the interesting things I have found is that in the progression of elements, first, according to the Sankhya philosophy, comes sound, then comes air, then comes fire, then comes water, then comes earth. Now, somebody might say, well, that's very primitive, not very scientific. But if you actually look at it, the first thing that comes in the Big Bang is space and time. They come from uh, the singularity that's there in the beginning. So the first thing that comes is the expansion of space. Then within that space, gases for air. And basically it's hydrogen and helium. And when they congregate, their mass into uh, stars, then you've got fire. You've got fire. And then the heavier elements form. It's the first generation stars uh, go into supernova state. They produce the heavier elements, including oxygen, which can be used to make water. And I've read numerous studies of astrophysicists and astronomers finding stars that are ejecting huge amounts of water into space. And then from there, the heavier elements, even heavier elements, are generated by the stars. So in both systems, you have space, air, fire, water, and earth. The heavier elements being formed in succession. So I think it's kind of interesting that if you really look carefully at modern cosmology, there are many parallels with Vedic cosmology and Sankhya metaphysics.
Thank you so much, Michael, and thanks, Aditya. I think it was a very fantastic discussion, and I think with that we'll wrap it up. And thanks for the fantastic, discussion and your views.
And thanks for moderating it in such a wonderful way.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much.
Thank you. That's good. Thanks for moderating. And thanks a lot, Michael. And thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hello. Welcome, Pratik.
Thank you, Adi. Thanks for having me.
Pratik, so floor is yours. And let's talk about expand your perspective from the aircraft point of view. And what's your journey been from a successful entrepreneur in this area?
Thanks, Adi. So I guess the theme is expanding perspectives, and I was thinking about it when we spoke yesterday. What I'm gonna say on this particular theme. It turns out my entire journey has been, built around this expanding your perspectives. I mean, think about it. Starting from small sheds in Amritsar, Punjab, and now making jet engines entirely in India. Learning lessons globally from working across different MNCs, and then applying those lessons and now leading DG propulsion. So it's all about expanding perspectives. But I want to take you back to my early days, and probably even further back to the early days of my family. I mean, where they came from, and how each and everyone in my family, they have been all about expanding their perspectives and what I've learned over the years. So my grandfather used to live in a really small village, just 5 kilometers from the international border between India and Pakistan. A small village. I mean, they never had enough money, right? I mean, just barely enough to put food on the table for 3 times a day. That's it. He, he expanded his perspective and went on to study. And those were the times when it was really hard for people to, even study past third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. So he studied really hard, and he became a government teacher. And same with my grandmother as well. She was a government teacher as well. And those are the times when it was really, really difficult for women, especially, to work outside their houses, outside the household chores and stuff like that. So both of them, they were teachers working for the government of Punjab, and that is where I get inspiration from. When my father had to go to medical college, and they, by the way, you know, they expanded the perspective that much that they enabled my father to become the doctor he is today, medical doctor he is today. They didn't have enough money to pay for my father's fee for the government medical college. But the luck would have it, my father earned won what do you call it? Uh, he his education got paid by he won some award, and his education got paid by the government. So that's another part to it, right? So I have learned from my parents, from my grandparents, about expanding perspectives, which is really, really important in anybody's life, right? I mean, most of the times we are stuck in the present or the past. We think that it's really difficult. I mean, think about it. When I started, I didn't even know where to, get the small stuff from, nuts and bolts and pieces, right? And now we are successfully making all the critical components, turbine wheels and compressor wheels and all. So I think that's that's what's important, and I really, really believe in expanding one's perspective. So you probably, and I've talked about this many times on your show, that I started tinkering back in 2013, right? And it took me that many years to get to the point we are now. We founded Pulsion in 2019, with the goal solely being to become India's first company to make jet engines entirely in India, all indigenous. The challenges were enormous. I mean, there was no ecosystem, there were no suppliers, no access to the market. So for a company like us, right, it started with just two people company, me and my co-founder, and now we have multiple people working for us, and we are growing our team exponentially now. We are making more products. We are looking for new markets. We are entering new markets. We are making bigger engines now, and we are expanding our team. So at each and every step in digital propulsion, we are expanding not only our business but our perspectives as well. So you really have to, keep your mind open to new ideas. As much as you can absorb is as much as you can give back. So from your show at Sattology, I think Sattology, to me, it comes from the word satya, sat, right, which is the truth. So a truth for a business like me is to deliver the products, not just make the prototypes, but to deliver the products. So we spend so much time, and a lot of people do that. We spend so much time doing R&D and stuff, but we never get to launching the product, shipping the product, right? For me, the satya of the business is to ship the products to the customers, and that's what we are striving towards at DG Propulsion. So we are not only building prototype engines anymore; we are making the engines that will fly. So that is the only truth at DG Propulsion. That is something that I've learned, from you, from speaking at Sattology, and from the knowledge that you have shared with me. And I think the message that I have for the people watching this show, especially the Indian audience, I think the middle class is what shapes the economy, right? I mean, there can be many more companies like DG Propulsion that should come up. uh, Middle class entrepreneurs, they should really, really expand their perspectives, and they should take more risk, and they should start more companies, build more products. We need more makers in the field. We have a lot of researchers, we have lot of people doing research and stuff. We need more people who have practical experience. I mean, I have learned more out in the field than working than learning from the textbooks. And we all know, right? We read so many textbooks in school and colleges, undergrad, grad, but really it's important when you start applying those textbooks, the text that you have learned during your school. So that's what we are doing. I mean, like I said, middle class is the backbone of the economy. We need more people from middle class, more middle class entrepreneurs entering into the area, starting more businesses. That is the way you will generate more employment as well. You'll employ more people, and then uh, the basic livelihood of people increases. The kind of life they're living, that increases exponentially as well. So I don't think anybody should be waiting for any permissions or any perfect labs. Just start with whatever you have. I mean, I started from a really small garage, uh, just probably a 10 by 10 garage, uh, just a small fan in it, right? That's it. And the summer is pretty crazy in India. You already probably know, right? So working in 45C, 50C heat, just a fan, building engines, and engines are generating their own heat as well. So it gets crazy pretty easily. But that's what is all expanding your perspectives. So thanks for having me again, Adi. I cannot hear you. I think you're on mute.
Pratik is the founder of the DG Propulsions, one of the best engine making firms upcoming from India, and he's currently in the US.
Yeah.
So let's see. And I wish you all the good luck, Pratik, from
Thank you.
Sattology. And we have big celebrities here. We have Mac here, Makaranda, and then we have Kenny Bigby, our brother. Thank you. He's the number one SEALs trainer, elite SEALs trainer for the US Navy.
Thank you.
So, Mac, your inputs on today's conference. I know it is a closing time now for the conference for this day today. So, Makaran Javadekar, welcome. So, tell us something about how we can use and your being part of Sattology, our annual festival for the first time. So, did you see the event today whole day?
No. I've been playing tennis whole day. I was in a tournament, so I was playing in the tennis tournament. So sorry I couldn't be here for the whole event, but I just said, let me participate in the where I'm supposed to be there. So I just joined you because I just finished my match and just came. So sorry about that, but again, Sattology and again, having seen you in person there and having read all about what you have been able to do, and glad to see Pratik and Kenny and everybody else here. So Aditya, nice to be here, and I think whatever I can offer in terms of where you are leading this charge with this. I will be happy to be a part of this going forward, and I think you are doing a great job leading this whole campaign about Sattology. And I think Richard and you, Aditya, have been a guiding light, in my opinion, in how you are leading this. So all kudos to you both, and I think it's amazing that you have been able to do this. And someday we need to have a in-person meeting as against having this virtual conference.
Every year it is in person. This year we had special circumstances, so we had to go online this year. Every year it's in person.
Yeah.
Yes, Kenny.
Yes, sir.
Back. So please. So this is our expand your perspective. How do you guide and motivate the people?
Wonderful. Can everybody hear me here?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Expand my perspective on Sattology.
Yes, please.
Wonderful. I think it's brilliant. There's a saying that brilliance in the SEAL teams, everyone says the SEALs is the best unit in the world. And what I explained to them is that the only reason why they're good is because they stand on the shoulders of giants. So we go train with the very best of other people, the best civilians, the best shooters, the best drivers. And because we collaborate with the best, then we become the best. So what it appears that we're doing here today is getting the best minds, as such as the men that are in this room, and we're putting all the best minds together to optimize our capacity to be the best version of ourselves. So that's how I'd sum up everything today. It's a huge honor to be here with such great minds, such great drives, to be able to start such a business as Pratik did out of a garage, man. That's hugely impressive. So it's an honor for me to be here with some of the best minds and to be able to stand on the shoulders of giants to become a better version of myself. An honor from everybody. Thank you.
So Kenny, let me dig a little bit deeper on your response, right? And anybody can answer this one because that's the whole expand your perspective. So you talk about the Navy SEALs and associating with high level caliber people, which we all understand that. We all know that. We read the posters, we got the fortune cookie. But do you think that surrounding yourself with great people is enough? You're going to be great because you're in a room full of great people. Do you think that's enough?
Of course. I believe Bruce Lee said it best. Knowing is not enough. We must apply. We must do. So the application of, and there's a couple factors of progression that occur. So just by being, they say the 5 people that you associate with or affiliate with, not just affiliates, but actually spend time with, that determines your financial aptitude. It enhances your intellectual capacity because you start to pick up their habits. You start to pick up their mindsets and methodologies. But then the next step is to apply it and make it real and manifest it in your world. So it does have an impact regardless, because we have something that are mirror neurons. Mirror neurons neurologically mean that if you flash a smile, subconsciously my brain flashes a smile. So we subconsciously mirror what each other do because we are communicable creatures. We survive amongst one another. So just by being around such as the great minds in this room, that does have an impact on your mindset and your methodologies, but on a higher conscientious level, like Adi was talking about, to apply the yoga, the concept of the procedures, to conscientiously apply it. So subconsciously, the mirror neurons let you absorb what they're doing and go to a higher level without you even noticing it, but then to the next tier to conscientiously apply it. So in the SEAL teams, we say you fall to the level of your training. You don't rise to the level of training. So to sum that idea up, what does that mean? Meaning that when you train, the definition of training is a change of behavior. So just by being around these great minds, the mirror neurons in my neurology are going to absorb what they're doing, their mindsets, their methodologies. But then with conscientious practice, I need a conscious level to live on purpose, is what we call by living on purpose, to make a conscientious effort to further apply those procedures, and the procedures get us to the end game.
You know, great response, and I'll follow that up with a little bit more detail. So I'm trying to dig deep, all right? So you just go with me. Pratik, you spoke very eloquently on understanding the expand your perspective with Adi. So the question I have, and this is what we all have as leaders, we're looking at leaders, we're looking at helping create leaders. Do you think everyone has the ability to expand their perspective? And what does it take as a leader to help people to understand that they need to, or how to expand their perspective?
I'm really confident of the fact that we as humans, we are really intelligent species as a whole. Our brains, our minds are really developed, that everybody amongst us, we can expand our perspective no matter where we are, no matter the kind of situation we are in. And like Kenny said, we are the average of the group we are in, right? If you are 5 people, will automatically mimic each other's behavior, the good habits, the bad habits. So we become the mean of the people we are in, right? So, and we are subconsciously always expanding our perspectives, may it be towards the good thing, may it be towards the bad thing. We are always thinking about new stuff, right? We are always talking to new people. We are always learning. I mean, we are always gathering all this data. It's all about data. The more data that you collect in your mind, the more you broaden your perspective, right? So, I mean, for what I do, I try to learn new things. I try to dig deeper into new things, right? I mean, making an engine out of a garage is not a small thing for anyone. You have to learn so many different processes, right? I mean, I cannot be an expert in every field, right? But I can still be knowing about every field to an extent that I can, then uh, hire out more people in that field, and I can enable them to expand their perspectives, and then they can build, really really nice things. And that's what leaders do. I mean, we talk about Steve Jobs at different levels. We talk about big CEOs of different firms, right? They hire out the people. They filter these people from normal people, from normal public, and then they empower them to think differently, to expand their perspectives, and that's how big corporations are built.
I really appreciate your insight from the leader perspective, because I agree with that. I coined the term called "Be You for You," and what that means to me is that everybody has potential, right? So we
Right.
often look at people that they don't have potential, they don't live up to this, but everybody has a role. You look at the Navy SEALs, you look in your corporation, you look at Mac at all his years at the top level of pharmaceuticals. Everybody has a role to make that company or make things successful, and it's up to you as the leader to figure out, because every company has a guy working in the mailroom. And if he messes
Yeah.
things up, your company is not going to really do too well. So that everybody has their role and as a leader. So I appreciate your insight. Mac, I'm going to throw you a little twist. You've been around for a few decades, and I respect your wisdom. The questions we talked about and approached earlier, which is a very crucial thing. How do you work, as you're out there in the world, how do you work with the younger people? Do you think that they have less perspective, or they're stuck in a bubble, or they're limited? So your experience, what do you think, that we're in trouble, that we're going to fail because the youth is so lost and confused, or what do you see with the younger people of today?
No, I think the younger people of today are savvy. They are more tech savvy, I would say, and more savvy than me, especially when it comes to tech. However, what they need is training in following somebody who has had decades of experience, and especially having some kind of a mentor mentee relationship. I think that's real key to their success, because somebody who has seen the world for many decades, somebody who has been there, done that, and trying to tell younger people or younger generation as to how they should go or where they should go. I think the directive that the older, or what I would say, not even older, but even people in their middle age who have had decades of experience, who are telling their younger generation, who is coming into the workforce, and trying to teach them how to do things right, and having that kind of a roadmap is the real key to telling them what not to do and what to do. However, more important is where you should not go, because I think some of the what I call successes and failures, I think you learn more from failures than successes. So if you can kind of teach your younger generation where there are pitfalls, where you could fail and where you should not go, I think that can really save their time. That can make them more adapt to, or apt to more successes. So in my opinion, I think if they listen to somebody who has gone through the path, and essentially follow the, what I call, their roadmap, I think they have more probability of success than even the people who have gone through that path. So I think the key here is, how do you convince younger people or younger generation to follow the advice of the people who have been there? And I think the key would be, you have to create that mentor mentee relationship. Unless you have that, I think it's not going to be sticking to them. So stickability, as you probably know, Richard, stickability was one of the books
Yes.
that we have all read about, and I think the stickability only comes only when the generation knows, the younger generation knows where the success is, and I think they follow the success, they like the fruits of the success. But the people who have gone through that, learning the hard way, I think that's where they have to say, oh my god, I can leverage what the generational people who are ahead of me, by 1 decade, 2 decade, 3 decades. But I think they have to realize the value of the experience that the people have, and if they can essentially imbibe on that and kind of extract the knowledge, I think there is nothing better than them getting successful, and I think that's the key. And I think the stickability only comes when the younger generation or the kids realize, oh my God, this is, if I was, so in other words, if I were to say, when about 50 years ago, when my advisor told me that at the onset, if somebody would have told me this, I would have taken this path. And he told me that 50 years ago. So that's why I could get the success to where I am today. And if he did not tell me that, I would not have been here in the path that took me, only 50 years. I say only 50 because, you don't get there unless somebody tells you that. And I think somebody in 1975 told me that, hey, he was born in 1911, and he told me that after 60 years of my being in existence, this is what I learned. And I think I picked up on that, and I said, hey, I'm going to make this a success story. I'm going to make this a story that can stay for generations to come, and I'm going to tell my kids, hey, do this, but beware, don't go that way or this way, and that way you'll succeed. So that's the short answer to your long question, or my long answer to your short question.
No. My question was very deep, and you covered it very eloquently. And just to give some insight, I've known Mac for over a decade, and so he, as the people that we've included in our Sattology kind of way of life, is not only does he talk the talk, but he walks the walk. So he is constantly helping people. He is constantly bringing them to events that are going to help elevate them. He's just a humble person. I remember I introduced him at one event, and it was a young lady, and he says, "Oh, I've spent some time working in pharma." And so she talked to him a little bit. I couldn't help but chuckle. I said, yeah, kind of made it to the top of that field in the pharma. It's like kind of saying that you were a general in the military and spent some time in the military. So that's the equivalent of his humbleness. And so he always laughs because I'm his hype guy. I always hype him up because I like to hype people up because people need to know who you are, not from a bragging sense, but what you've accomplished. And he's a great example in that regard. So I do thank you for that, Matt. And he's introduced me to tremendous people over the years that I've become great friends with, and they're younger folks, younger being 30. Isn't that weird? As you get older, 30 seems young. Like the kids, I call them kids. They're like, they're 30. I'm like, still a kid. Anyway, so again, thank you, Mac, for being here. Pratik, we're going to change gears a little bit. And with Sattology, we focus on, we look at history, we look at culture, we look at spirituality, we look at language, right? And language isn't always in Spanish and Hindi and Chinese. It's the nuances, right? And you all know that learning English, there's so many nuances that are incredible. And my wife's from Israel. She speaks Hebrew, and she's still like, there's these words that make no sense in English. They just don't fit into a pattern. So the question is, do you feel that as you travel and as you deal with people, that expanding a perspective is clouded, or even like being the leader and the mentor, as Max said, is clouded by cultural differences? Do you think people are going to be put off or stopped because they don't want to expand their perspectives to deal with people from the UK or from Canada or from Louisiana? Do you see that as an issue worldwide? Not necessarily in your lives, because we're all pretty much evolved, but do you see that as being a problem?
No, I don't see that as a problem. I mean, that all depends upon how you look at it, right? The language for me is the way of expression. If I'm able to understand what the other person is saying, and if I'm able to convey what I want to say, that is the language for me, no matter if it's Hindi, Punjabi, English, Hebrew, or any other language in the world, right? And I think it depends upon the cause you're working for as well. I mean, if my cause is too big, I'll talk to everyone, right? I'll talk to every person in the field if I have to understand something. I mean, I have professors that I've worked with. They have been from all different backgrounds in life. They have been from all different cultures. And I've never failed, or I've never stopped to learn anything new from them, no matter what their culture was. So, I mean, I actually think it's quite opposite. I mean, the more you travel, the more you learn new stuff, the more you learn about different cultures, the more you learn about how different people are solving different problems in their own different ways, right? I mean, you get to learn so much when you travel, when you meet different people from different cultures. I think it would be really naive for me to say that traveling or meeting different cultures inhibits me. I think it's just the opposite. I've learned so many things living in the US, working for the US companies. I've learned different things working for the German companies. There's always these qualities that you learn. I mean, that I wouldn't have been able to learn if I was just in India, living in India and working for the Indian companies. Uh, there's so many successful companies in US, in Germany, in Europe, and all. I'm sure they're doing something right, right? I mean, it's for me to learn how they are doing these things right, how they're working in their day-to-day lives. One of the biggest things that I've learned living in the US is, being on time to different places. That's a big thing. Even if you're late by 1 minute, you don't respect that thing, right? I mean, that's something that I've learned being in the States. And many other things. I mean, the work culture I've learned. I mean, people they respect their job no matter what kind of a job they're doing. I mean, everybody is out there working and making a difference in their field, and that's the biggest thing. I want those kind of people working in my company, that they should know that they are making a difference in whatever they are doing in the company. So that is how you learn from different cultures, and I feel really blessed that I got that opportunity. uh, Travel the world to meet new people, meet new cultures. I think that's a big blessing. If anybody can do that, it's a big thing.
No, great response, Pratik. And again, you gave the exact answer of how to be successful, and how to be
Thank you.
open-minded. And so again, that doesn't come easy to everyone. Sometimes we have to work to overcome that in people that we're trying to mentor because they're closed-minded for whatever reason. But you gave the perfect answer on how to be successful, how to use your resources wherever they come from, because you're correct. Some people have knowledge that you don't have, and it doesn't. To me, I'm the same way. It doesn't matter where they come from. Kenny and I have a background in the martial arts. If I have someone that comes from Thailand and they got a cool little, technique that I like, I'm making it my own. So that's just the beauty of life. But again, unfortunately, not everyone's that way. Not everyone understands that. People get stuck in their bubble. So again, along those same lines, Kenny, I'll throw it to you. How does one get out of being stuck, right? This is your perspective. You go to work, you're successful, you're an attorney, you're a doctor, especially the high stress professions I see, they unfortunately get more stuck than anybody else. And Max sees it in the high tech world as he's in a pharmaceutical. They get so stuck and so tunnel vision. How do you get them to continue to expand? Because you got to change the business model. You got to grow with the changing times. So how do you see that in your world, and how do you help to change someone to get out of that kind of stuck mode?
That's a brilliant question. Two ways that you can change, two great methodologies. One, actually, I'll give three. One that the doctor talked about, a mentor relationship, to always have somebody that is where you want to be. When you have that establishment, then like the doctor said, and also Pratik said, you inherit those procedures of how to get there. The goal sets the trajectory, the techniques, tactics, and the procedures get you there. When you find someone that is doing greater than what you're doing, and you're always looking for people that are doing greater than what you're doing, minds that are greater than yours, cultures that are doing things differently, more efficacious than what you're doing. When you find that, you can go to them and they will hand you the procedure versus you having to figure it out the hard way. Number two, another great way, like you said, is how do I get out of the rut? Imagine for a moment being my age. I was maybe 20 or 21, and I sat down in the military and they made me fill out my will. And the doctor talked about something very important. So the way the brain works, more impactful than something that you want is the pain of not getting what you want, or the pain of what happens when you don't do an evolutionary progression. Right? So I signed my will up, and you get to look at the end of your life. So visualize being 20, and I'm writing down my assets and everything I have, and I get to see who I would be, and is that who I want to be on my final day at 20 years old. So I like to say, if you want to be elite, if you want to be constantly progressive, if you want to be limitless, then you must plan your mission backwards. Where do I want to end up? And one of those things, the most impactful thing, is to ask yourself, what happens if I don't constantly improve? If I don't constantly get with the best minds, such as yourself, Richard, such as Pratik, such as the doctor? If I don't do that, what will I be writing down on my will? What will I have for my people? What will I have that I've served my community and the world with? And that pain point is often more impactful, like the doctor said. Let me show you what not to do. So there's the procedures of what to do. And then the doctor said, and let me show you what not to do. So if you visualize for a moment on your will, if I did everything wrong, if I don't do those things that the doctor suggested, where will I end up? The brain actually responds to pain oftentimes better than to pleasure, and it will move you. So you have to have your goals of what you want, the pleasure points, and you have to have the pain goals, what to move away from. So I need goals to move towards, and I need things to stay away from. And I believe that's what the doctor was alluding to there. And like Pratik said, when you get around other cultures, so when I study martial arts, I go to that culture to study the martial art, because you might understand the method, but you need to understand the mindset along with the procedure. Like the doctor, like Adi said, I need to attach the soul to it. There's the technique, but then there's the tenacity. What is the soul of the culture? In Thailand, the Americans do it very hard and rough. And in Thailand, they're very playful people. They say sabai sabai. This means relax. You misunderstood the martial art there, because they're a very relaxed, playful people. You must go to that culture to understand the nuance, and the nuance will take you a million miles. So to wrap it up, get around people that are doing better than you. So they give you it pulls you to want to get procedures and be given the procedures to do better. Next, number 2, write down your will. Begin with the end in mind. Where do I not want to end up? Like the doctor said, man, if I don't do this, this is the wrong path, I will end up here. And that will drive you. Your mind will subconsciously move you towards the better procedures that people have given you an inheritance to by getting around the better people.
Well said, and 100% agree with all of that. Thank you. Mac, we'll come back to you. And again, going back to what you stated and what Kenny was stating, you talk about mentors and groups, and we all believe in that, right? The key here is, how do we help and guide young people to find the right groups and the right mentors? Because we know as the internet has grown, there's lots of people hanging the shingle of mentor and coach and guru and everything else. So how do you see that we collectively can help guide the younger generation, be it high school, college, young business people, to find the right groups and to find the right person that's going to help guide them to true success? You had to think about that one. Did you get that, Mac? That was for you.
Yeah, so I'm no. So what I was kind of putting more emphasis on is finding the right mentor is a key.
Yes.
And not everybody who has had training, either training academically, plus in the business side of things, plus in the professional world. I think what you got to do is, if you think, and let's consider, I'm a youngster, I'm in my teenage, I just got my high school done, and I'm entering college, and I want my direction. Where shall I go, and what shall I choose? I think the first thing you need to tell the kid that, talk to somebody whom you trust. Trust is everything. Credibility is everything. So in my opinion, 4 C's of success. Our first one is credibility, second one is capability, third one is capacity, and the 4th C comes in as cost of doing everything above. So you cannot forget about the cost, because not everybody can afford to do everything. So cost is critical, but that's the 4th thing down the list. First is credibility. So credibility, you have to find someone credible as your mentor. And I think as Kenny rightfully said, the mentors and the groups and finding the right mentors is the real key. And if you find the right mentor and if you think somebody can guide me, I think that's where the youngster should go and essentially sit down, at least in the phase of life the person is in. So I've been mentoring lots of, I would say, youngsters who are in their beyond teens, but they are in their 20s. So when they come to me, first thing I ask them, tell me your passion. If they can define their passion, 50% work is done for you, because as a mentor you got to say, hey, if you are interested in let's say anything to do with art, then where their left brain is or where their right brain is. So I think understanding that is the key. Once you understand that, then you can go deeper, but don't go unless you get an answer yes or no. So it's almost like a logic tree you have to follow, and once you follow that logic tree, I think you will never go wrong. So my always belief is, to a youngster, and doesn't matter what age group or how much of an education they have had and how much experience they have had, but I think it is best to have somebody take upon you as a mentor, and train that person to an extent of saying, hey, I think you are doing it right. Do it more of what you're doing it right, and do less of what you're not doing it so right. So I think it's almost like, I take an analogy of a tennis instructor. If a person is good at certain things as a passion, if the person likes forehand, tell him, continue to do that, but then try to learn other tricks of the trade where others can get you, and you could be defeated. And so that's the definition of what I call, in real sense, the coach. And the coach is the mentor. And I think that's where I always go, and I look at anybody who asks me to take on their mentorship. I go with their passion, and I kind of press hard on that passion as against pulling them away from their passion.
No, great response, and I see it the same way. And Adi and I often have the same conversation. I know Kenny thinks the same way. We look at ourselves as guides. We're not dragging someone by the hand. We're not pushing them in the direction we think they need to go. We act as a guide to them on what their passion is. That's very well said, using the word passion. So once we know their passion, we can help guide them. Let's say martial arts, they come and they want to be a sparring competitor. So we know that. We're not going to take the average kid and make him a sparring competitor if that's not what he wants. We're not going to push him there. So it's the same thing in business. If someone's good at math, we'll guide them. We'll show them what they can do in math. If they're not, we're not going to push them into math. It might be arts. So again, great advice on that. And I like the word passion. I haven't inserted that one in there, but it definitely comes down to passion. If you're not passionate about what you do, no matter how much money you make or how much you succeed on the ladder, you're not going to be happy. So I definitely appreciate that one. Now, what was my last question I was going to go into? It was really profound. I almost forgot my question. It'll come back. We already better one. So this will be the last question. And so looking at experience and expanding your perspective, the question is, like I'll use the military as an example. They usually go in 4-year contracts. So every 4 years, they sit you down and they say, do you want to continue in the military? Do you want to continue in your branch? Do you want to continue in your job? So that's a pretty kind of weird concept, because every year you're almost out of a job, but you reevaluate. So my question to the panel is, do you, in your current life, in your current lifestyle, do you sit down every month, 6 months, year, and say, am I where I want to be, and where do I want to go? Right? So do you sit down and make sure you are continuing to expand your perspective? Because as we talked earlier with some of the earlier panels, we think we do, right? I think I'm expansive and I'm all over the place. And then I look at my habits, and they're in a pretty tight little thing that I do. I do the same things regularly. I talk to the same people regularly. Not a bad thing, but it's kind of like I evaluate. So, okay, do I need to expand? Do I need to move in another direction? Do I need to take my business somewhere? So collectively, do you do that? Do you take time out of whatever schedule you use? Pratik, we'll start with you.
I do that quite a bit. I have this habit of challenging every thought that I get. I mean, when you're running a company, right? I mean, you tend to get into that zone where you think whatever you're doing is right for the business, right? I mean, and that's probably one of the biggest reasons companies die, because the founders, they stop caring enough. They just get complacent, and then companies die eventually. So every time I get this new thought, I try to challenge that I sort of nullify that thought, and then I start from scratch. Okay, why would I think the way I'm thinking right now? What my competitors will be thinking, right? And do you think it's the right strategy? And then I try to reason that thought out. And I talk to different people as well. I talk to my wife all the time. Hey, I'm thinking this may be a good thing for my business. Do you think from a layman perspective is the right thing to do? Do you think it sounds right? Or do you think I'm just going crazy with this or doing so? Continuously challenging yourself is the key here. I think you have to keep challenging yourself, and that's when the best of the best thoughts come out. I think that's probably my take on this.
Now, I agree, and that's definitely the thought pattern of true leaders. I appreciate that. Kenny, we'll go to you now. Same question.
Nice. Again, I'll point out three major things that you can do to optimize. And one thing that Pratik said very well is the idea of the collective conscious. So you have a thought, but when we and something else the doctor said, I have a very similar concept in a meritocratic environment based off performance, a performance-based environment based off merit. I like to say very similar things to what the doctor said. First is the capacity, then there's the competency, and then there's the will to contribute. So you have to have the capacity. So I want to get around the most brilliant minds and use the collective conscience of the most brilliant minds and bounce ideas off them. Next is the capacity. Do we have the ability to actually apply the competency, the ability to actually make it real, to manifest it? Do we have the capacity to have the greatest minds? And now the competency, can we manifest that, make it real? And next, how do we contribute this across the board of the team, or how does it contribute to humanity or humankind? So, and that's very similar to several things that the doctor pointed out, and Pratik pointed out one major thing, and that is to think with the collective conscious, because I only have one mind. And that's how everything, like the Constitution of the United States, it's always adaptable and amenable. So it's always able to acclimate to the best practices. Number two is to know the plan, the end game. Begin with the end in mind. Again, in the SEAL teams, we plan our mission backwards. Where do I want to end up? And one thing you discover there when you plan the mission backwards is you see all the challenges along the way. When you plan it backwards, you go, oh man, if I want to end up there, look at all the hills and the mountains. And you start to be able to create techniques, tactics, and standard operating procedures to be able to navigate that. And it's the procedures that get you there. So next, we plan it backwards. Now, number three is the specificity that I plan it backwards. What is my 10-year goal? What is the end of life goal? My 10-year goal, my 5-year goal. And then we start to really narrow it down. In the military, each day you wake up, there's the plan of the year. And there's the plan of the month. Then there's the plan of the day. At the most specific and articulate pointed goal, I want to identify today. I wake up every morning and I identify either the night before and when I wake up in the morning. And this is one of the ways I made it through the SEAL teams. What are the 3 to 5 most impactful things that I can do in the next 18 hours that are going to push me towards that end game? And that's always changing. Like you said, Richard, that's never in a straight line. A plane is always flying, not in a straight line. When you drive a car, you don't just drive through buildings and drive over grass and just hit people. You got to go around those obstacles, and it's always changing in real time. So at this moment, what are the 3 major objectives within this next 18 hours that drive me towards my end game? And I'm constantly waking up and I get rid of all the white noise and I focus that. So when we plan a mission in the SEAL teams, those are called our primary. What is the primary objective? And 80 to 90% of my actions are moving towards that primary objective. Then there's immediate action drills. What can I do immediately right now to actually take action to get my primary, secondary, and tertiary objective done? Now, I'm going to procrastinate on everything outside of that. It's white noise. And I'm actually going to dial in and make that happen. And I'll delegate that like Pratik talked about, to the other team members, the other great minds, and they can handle that. And I'll focus and delegate everything except my genius. So every day I wake up and I look at the long-term goal, the yearly goal, and I look at the 3 most impactful things that I need to get done today. I delegate everything else, and I attack that with an immediate action drill to give me the greatest propensity of success.
Well said, Kenny. You covered all the bases again, and it's interesting when leaders talk, they talk leadership talk. So it's not even by design. It's not like you're reading the script. It's just a way of life. So Max, same question. Do you evaluate? Again, you've been there, done that. So you have to sit down and say, okay, what have I done? Of course, Mac always puts on his calendar to play tennis with all the cool tennis players around the world. So that's always primary on his calendar now, but he's still very active in the community, very active advising in the pharmaceutical world. So how do you look at now, Mac, at this point, what you evaluate?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question, and Kenny really alluded it to the right pathway, and I think so. Number one, I do is every now and then. I mean, obviously, I meditate every day, but every now and then, during the meditation, I ask myself a question. Hey, where I'm here today, what I may be doing wrong and what I may be doing right. And when I get the answers to that during meditation, that is the real answer. So when I get things like you are doing right here, here, and here, but here you are wasting your time because it's not going to the targeted areas that you said you want to work on. So I essentially remove those out of my goal plan, and then so I look at goals, I look at vision, and based upon my goals and vision, I create standard operating procedures, SOPs. And once those SOPs are done, then I apply science to it. So, I mean, thermodynamics, law number one, the entropy of the world is always increasing. So, the degree of mixedness is always going up. So, you want to take advantage of that entropy and not enthalpy. It's the entropy. I apply the thermodynamics to my life. I apply the Einstein-Boltzmann equation to my life. What is Einstein-Boltzmann equation? It is diffusivity equals K, which is a universal constant, multiplied by the temperatures in Kelvin, multiplied by the mobility. And if you are mobile and if your temperature is high, temperature in the sense your zeal to work at a higher speed and temperatures, your diffusion is going to be amazing. Diffusion is everything that you're working for. So I apply the Einstein-Boltzmann equation to everything what I do because I'm a scientist at heart. I worked with James Watson of Watson Crick, who got the Nobel Prize for the DNA. So I've been working with him many years during my Pfizer years, and so I asked James Watson, "What is the secret of your success?" And he said, "It's the Einstein-Boltzmann equation. That's the success." He told me about, and he got his Nobel Prize in the 1962 or 63, but then the work was done in the 50s, and Einstein-Boltzmann equation came into the world in the 40s. So he essentially used that equation to his success. So he said Einstein was my mentor. So if James Watson says that, oh my God. I mean, that's like a God telling you something. And when he told me that, I said, oh my God, I'm going to follow you. So he became my mentor. So to tell you, in a nutshell, I think you have to always listen to your mentors. You have to always listen to your mind. You have to always meditate and ask yourself what you may be doing right. And not everything that you are doing is right. There are certain things you are not doing it right. So remove those from your ideology and do it right. So that's my answer to your question.
Great answers, gentlemen. This has been a true pleasure. Thank you for coming on and sharing with our Sattology community. And this is what we're creating here. Adi started this many years ago. I jumped on board with him because I saw the vision. is to just bring people together who have good hearts, right? That's the key to this, because you can get a lot of intelligent people, but without the good heart, they're not going to do good work. We all know that. So we're collecting people with intelligence and success and good heart to get out there to help even the business people. I'm working with people who are 50 years old and facing retirement, and it's like the worst case scenario because they didn't build that into their plan. You know, I have a client who's, like I talked earlier, owns a law firm, and he doesn't know how to get out of that. He's been working 16 hours his entire life, so he's there. So how does he get out of being where he's supposed to be? He didn't plan for sitting on. He said he's going to retire and sit on the beach. I said, you never sat on the beach in your life. So again, same thing. Max sees them in his world. Kenny sees them in his world. Lots of the martial arts communities, they teach it until they're 110 years old, which is great, but you need a plan. You need another plan, teach part-time or run a business or something. So that's the key, is we're trying to reach out to people to help them. Again, the truth. We give them the truth for their lives, not that we're telling them this is the truth. We're going back to ancient texts, the ancient Sanskrits, and saying this is a proven philosophy. Like Max said, meditate, breathe. Again, we say that's the core of it. Whatever situation you're in, focus, breathe. The answers will come to you, but you have to ask the questions. So that's
and I believe in Gayatri mantra, and that has so much in it that one could really come out like what Gautam Buddha said in Nirvana, and it's all about the Gayatri mantra. And I think Sattology is, the core of Sattology is in Gayatri mantra, in my opinion. This is my
correct.
opinion.
No, you're correct. You're correct.
And Om Bhurvuvasvaha Tatsavitar Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yonak Prachodayata. That's the mantra that you literally have to, bring it out in your heart and meditate, and good thoughts come to you by having this mantra in your head constantly, and you will never fail. And that's my personal opinion, but mantra is something that I keep it to my heart. And I think Sattology, I'm sure that everybody who uses Sattology to their personal advantage or the personal gain, I think this is the way they have to come to grips with it. Because as I learned Sanskrit as my second language. My first language was Marathi, that was my mother tongue, but then Sanskrit became my second language, and I mastered it to the extent of presenting papers at the World Sanskrit Conference in East Germany as well as in Paris. And then I realized how important that is. That's where when I came to San Diego and talked to Adi as well as with Richard, I talked about Gayatri Mantra. I talked about the Sanskrit literature and the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. And I think there are lots of teachings which will enlighten so many people from the West. And I think there is this is just the what I call the tip of the iceberg, and I think it will make all the difference. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you,
Appreciate
Adi,
that.
and thank you, Richard.
Appreciate the insight. Pratik, one last thought for the crowd?
No, I think it was really impressive. I learned a lot of new things today. You guys are really amazing. Dr. Mag, Kenny, you really articulated in different points, and like I said pretty early on in the call, you learn every day, and my perspective got expanded even more after talking to everybody on the panel today. Really impressive. Really, really honored to be here.
Thank you so much, Pratik.
Kenny, last thoughts?
Agreed. In just this short amount of time, all of you men made me better. So it's a huge honor for me to hang out with you. And all I can say is I look forward to more. An honor, everybody.
We're bringing more. We're going to be, we're expanding this horizon. So Adi is the type that doesn't stop. I don't stop. So between the two of us, we don't stop. So this is just the beginning. But thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on this journey. Like I said, Adi started this journey a few years ago. I joined, but we're still in the beginning. We're still in the kind of baby phases. So we appreciate you being here with us, and definitely we want you with us as we continue to grow this.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, Adi, and
Thank you.
thank you, Richard. And I really applaud all the efforts that you have put into this particular seminar and beyond seminar. Actually, I really thought amazing people here gathered together, and I think we need to have in-person meetup
thank you all, gentlemen, and thank you all the guests and speakers today, whole day. We have been on since 9, it's almost 5. So I'll let you all go before our evening program starts. So we've never had a stoppage. So,
Okay.
and tomorrow morning we come back again at 9 a.m. sharp. So, Mac, Kenny, and Pratik, all of you are invited again at 9 a.m. And tomorrow, whole day will be sessions, amazing sessions planned yes, tomorrow. A lot of Native Americans coming, and the session starts with Larry Namer and other sponsors tomorrow morning. And also tomorrow we have Native History of United States, a lot of Native American chiefs coming, then ancient spiritual power of the world, and AI. We will talk about AI from the ancient point of view, from Mahabharata point of view. And then can intelligence and consciousness be programmed, which will be led by Desh Kapoor, Sankrant, Jean McNaughton, Zeb Homison, and Bashir. And then you have P.V. Narasimha Rao, the one of the best astrologers. In fact, he has some connections with the top house in this world, the White House, Dr. P.V. Narasimha Rao. And then we have How Old is the Universe? Is again Michael Cremo, Stephen Knapp, Nilesh Oak, Ashwini. And then you have Celebrities event again, moderated by uh, Sri Narasimhan and Eric Zoli. And then you have Nick Collins joining from UK, and he's a maritime historian, and he proves that how the world knew about maritime routes way before Europeans did. So he's proving that. It's Nick Collins from UK, and he's again joined by Ankit Shah and Dr. Ratan Sharda from India. And Ratan Sharda is getting up at 3:15 in the morning to come to this conference. So, and he's a very prominent author in India. And the last session is What Makes You Intelligent, which is led by Richard Gordon, the moderator, and we have Dr. Ranjan, he's a psychiatrist, Sharad Mohan, and also Zeb Homison again. Zeb Homison runs a very successful yoga studio in Pittsburgh, and he has been my buddy for almost now 18 to 19 years. So amazing person, Zeb Homison. So this is the schedule for tomorrow, and thank you all for being here today. And thank you, Richard. Thank you, Galit. And thank you, Jacqueline, and all the people who helped us organize this today. And thank you for all the Sattology Gurukul people who worked hard to spread it out. So whole day, in today's day, we have 17,000 views already. So, so we reach out to 70,000 people. We will reach out to almost 1 million people in 30 days. So thank you all very much for joining. And I'll see you tomorrow at 9 a.m. And meanwhile, keep watching Sattology, keep following us on Gurukul, and see my latest book out next week. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Thank you.